Well, the video for the 8th of January is titled, Wholeness Requires a Both and Mentality. To me, a big reason why nothing gets resolved here on earth is because most people have been told they must choose either this or that proposition. Normally, when we do that, enmity is created. This fights that and vice versa. No one wins, even if it's just an idea in the mind. For most of my life, I have tried to utilize a both and point of view. To me, everything is made up of truth and error. Yes, we must discern which is which. However, unless we do this from a place of love, doing our best to embrace the whole, we miss the mark. Wait a minute, I lost my place. Are our minds incapable of grasping this? Yes, I know we have been brainwashed, cajoled, and outright deceived. Nevertheless, if we are to heal within and without, it is imperative that we cease the warring and come from a place of healing or wholeness. It's interesting, the topic was precipitated by questions made by my friend Armand, and we had a little bit of a Facebook dialogue going back and forth. But last night I attended a discussion group, and the first discussion group of each new year is we are asked to predict what's going to happen in that year. So we were making predictions of what would happen in 2017. And ironically, one of the people mentioned, the enormity. He sees everything collapsing because of the enormity of the debt. And I want you folks to realize, and I made this a point last night in the discussion group, the debt is fiction. It's created out of thin air. It's not real. Now, yes, the financial system as we have known it, based on debt, has to dissolve. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be something new take its place that's better and more honest. I don't know that we're ever going to have an honest, completely honest financial system till human beings transform in a much greater way than we've done so far. However, I do think that there's a possibility of things getting better. And ironically, most of the people there, I would say 2/3 of the people there see Trump as bringing in some of the positive changes. But we have to get to a place where we both recognize the error and we recognize that people that have been caught in the error, not 100%, but for the most part, are innocent victims of the deception. They've never known anything other than what they've been taught and observed from childhood, and most do not have the spiritual inclination to investigate and to go within and to investigate on the outside. And again, it's not an either or. We don't either go inside and meditate and find the answers or explore outside. We have to do both. It's both and are required for us to grow up. We have to both eat and eliminate. We can't do either or. If we just try to eliminate things from our lives, we're going to always be at war with what we're, with whatever we're trying to eliminate. We're trying to get rid of something. And we do have to move beyond the brainwashing, and we have to know the truth, as I've said in many videos, recent and previous videos that go back some years. But we have to be willing to not do a process of either or. We can't do that. And that's what's wrong with so many of the churches, as I pointed out in the previous video, but not just in churches, in everything, in the scientific community. It's either evolution or creation. Well, what if evolution and creation are both working together? What if they always have been both working together? What if creation is a process of evolution, a process of evolving from one state to another? Now, I don't believe the evolution that that humans were ever monkeys. I don't believe that we came from animals. But I do believe that we were created, and yet I'm not going to argue with people that see it the other way, because there is evolution involved, and I just have a different definition of evolution, but I can still communicate with people as long as we're not fixed in our ways and think that we have to convince the other person that they're wrong. That's why I've reached out throughout my life to people of other religions, for example. I've tried to reach out to people that have other viewpoints, and I've tried to find the common ground. And that's the both and mentality. I will both investigate and do my best to love you just because you're doing your best. And I'll recognize that you're struggling to know the truth, just as I'm struggling to know the truth, and none of us have arrived yet. If we had arrived, we wouldn't need to convince anybody, would we? We would just simply be. But because we don't have all the answers, because we don't have it all figured out yet, we struggle. And I've recognized my struggle perhaps this year more than this past year now, more than any time in my life, because I've had to re-examine everything that I've ever thought was true, and reassess how to apply things in my life, and ask myself constantly, what if what I've been taught is wrong? Now, I don't want to argue with people. There's sometimes people want to get into arguments of who's right and who's wrong. I come from the point of view of God, and I was raised memorizing the Bible, as I've said. Some people consider that not nonsense and of no validity whatsoever. But that's where I come from. And I'm not trying to say that you're wrong if you come from something different, but I'm not going to argue with you about details, because the important thing is to love one another. The important thing is that we recognize that both this and that have elements of truth and elements of error, as I said in the blurb, within them. And we need to determine what works for us, what seems the best way for us. And as long as we can do that from a place of love and a place of being willing to build bridges and not walls, and reach out in compassion and love and sincerity, not arrogance. See, we get in our own way by the attitudes that we put forth, and we can become very much victimized and victimizers of others when we come from that place. And we need to somehow, by the grace of God, as I would phrase it, we need to be able to rise above that which has limited us, so that we can finally become whole, or at least more whole than we've ever been before. And again, the center of the whole thing is to love. The center of the whole thing is to know truth. And as I've said in previous videos, truth and love are the same thing. So I'm hoping that some of the projections that people made regarding 2017 are correct. We've been making predictions for a number of years in that group, every first of the year, and it'll be interesting to see how things work out. Thank you for listening, and namaste.